10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey everyone, welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. I'm coming at you live on CKLU 96.7 FM on terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live at cklu.ca on the internet, and you can click on the Radio Player Canada app to stream us. Download the same Radio Player Canada app to take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We're also streaming live at Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. So make sure to like, share, comment, mainly comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening. And also make sure to like and share and subscribe, follow, whatever it is you need to do on the different social medias in order to follow us. Please do so. And we really appreciate the community that we've been building over the last 3 years here at Sudbury News Talk, 7 years as just being on the air, sports talk, news talk, you name it. We are just grateful for the, it's almost like a family that we've been able to, build. It's a community. And it's a chance, it's an opportunity for us to be able to share our views on the news, talk about the things that are important to us, and try to understand the world that we live in, which each and every day seems to be, it's confusing, and it seems to be getting possibly more confusing, not sure why, since we have the most communication technology in the history of the world. But we do our best to understand what's going on. Now, we can also be found on demand after the show on those two platforms, Facebook and YouTube, but we're also found on x.com/Sudbury News. Instagram, we were in the midst of making a TikTok account. We have a TikTok account, but we haven't really done anything with that. So we have our news aggregator, Sudbury.news, which you can check out, which aggregates all the local news into one web page. It's our answer to the federal government's policy that now makes it impossible for any news organization to have a web page or have a Facebook page, or to be able to, for anyone to share any international news, local news, national news on Facebook in Canada. We're the only country that is allowed to use Facebook and cannot share news, have news or share it on either Facebook or Instagram, Facebook being the world's largest social media platform, the one in which a older demographic a voting demographic uses in this country by the year, 2040, we're going to have most of Canada be over 55, the majority of Canada. Anyways, so yeah, we're going to dive right into some local news stories this morning. We're going to unpack some federal news about the candidates that are running for the leadership of this country, mainly Mark Carney, because Mark Carney kind of just came out of nowhere. Nobody really knows him, and he's the savior for the particular party in which he leads, and currently sitting in the prime minister's chair before the election, so making decisions for our country, and we're not even really sure who this particular person is. Can you imagine that? You have a prime minister that you don't really even really know, and has been but part of this government for many years, not really, just behind the scenes. doing things and advising and encouraging the government to make certain policies, but in the shadows, so to speak. So we'll try and shed some light in the shadows and, uh, let everybody know at least who this person is, because I think the other candidates have been around for so long. You have an opinion of them. You have had a chance to know them. If there's anything nefarious about them, it's had a chance to come out over the years because they've been there for so long. Whereas Mark Carney, not so much. So we're doing our best to kind of educate as much as we possibly can everybody about this particular person. So that's what we'll try to do towards the last part of the show. So stick around. We're going to have a great show. We'll start off with a little bit of weather, as we usually do. And weather is going to be interesting today, as every day you never know what you're going to get in Sudbury. So today is one of those days. It's just going to be a mixed bag. But as soon as we come back from the weather, we'll check in with all y'all. We'll get some comments, news headlines, some deep diving, as usual. So welcome. If this is your first time being on the show, we encourage you to comment and just say good morning, and that way we know you're there and feel a part of the show. This is your show on your station, CKLU 96.7 FM. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. And weather as usual brought to you by Voyager Tire, voyagertire.com. You can check them out there or visit them at the intersection of Falconbridge, 2nd Avenue, and the Kingsway. Let them know we sent you. You get a 10% off discount on already discounted name brand tires. While you're there, check out the car wash. This is the time of year you want your car to be shining after all of the salt that we've experienced. Currently, it's 3 degrees with light rain. Today, we can expect periods of rain, wind moderate, high of 8. Tonight, cloudy with a 60% chance of rain this evening and after midnight. Periods of snow beginning overnight. Yes, snow hasn't stopped. And Tuesday, periods of snow, wind moderate, but gusting later to 50 kilometers per hour, high of +2. So there you have it. Periods of snow tomorrow, high of +2. Wednesday, they're forecasting to be sunny and 3 degrees. And then Thursday, they're forecasting to be sunny and 8 degrees. Friday, some more rain. 6 degrees is the high. Saturday, cloudy with 5 degrees being your high, and then sunny again on Sunday with a high of 9. Let's hope this time it's not a bad forecast. It's a good, trade-off. A little bit of snow, some sun. So we'll take it. Here's a look at your satellite as of 1 a.m. this morning, so it hasn't changed much since about 7 hours ago. And that's your weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca and Voyager Tire. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. And here we are back, and here you are here. And so welcome, everybody. Glad to be with you this morning. We're thankful that you're here with us. And we got Northern Hillbilly first to the YouTube party. Good morning, people. Good morning to you as well. As Nancy on YouTube, good morning. And Nana as well on YouTube, good morning. And blessings to all. Heart emoji. Judy's on Facebook. Good morning to you. Vin as well. Good morning. And Marvin, good morning all. Always up very early, Marvin in Alberta. It's you're an early riser, that's for sure. And Monique, good morning. Sudbury, smiley emoji. Denise, good morning. Everyone, all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, healthy. Like and share. Thank you for that, Denise. And Marianne, good morning, everyone. From Rainy Berry. Hand clap emoji. And I guess it's better than snow in some ways, but or freezing rain, and liked and shared as usual. Denise, blessings, everyone. Same to you, Denise. And Hazel, good morning. Prayer emoji. Same to you, Hazel. And we need as much of those as possible these days, more than ever. So I encourage anybody who is in that practice. Prayer is what I'm referring to. Make sure to just give that a little bit more intention and thought, and you will be surprised at how much good it can bring. So Belinda says, "Good morning. History, despite its retching pain, cannot be unveiled. However, if faced with courage, might not ever be lived again." Double heart emoji. So yeah, history, despite it being wrenching pain, cannot be unveiled. Sorry, unlived. It cannot be unlived. However, if faced with courage, it might not ever be lived again. So again, history, learn from history, and that way we don't have to relive it again. And unfortunately, though, we know that there's a cycle that we are in where, things are good and you kind of let down your guard and you're not really aware of what made things good. And so you get kind of caught up in things that are frivolous and whatever. And you start thinking everything's good and you don't have to have a guard up for anything. And then you kind of get what's called prideful. Prideful in, wow, not really sure who is behind making things so good and whatever. And you let things seep into your life and you start thinking maybe it was because you might have done some things that were good, and you start losing touch with reality, and eventually reality starts seeping into your life and letting you know that no, things are the way they are for a different reason than what you thought they were. And we're taught huge lessons. We do this in society. We do this in our personal lives. So things are good. We begin to be prideful. We start, let's say because our circumstances are good, we start having things. We start having nice things. We start being more concerned with our things than people. And, we again lose touch with reality, and that we need to be, concerned about ourselves and our fellow men. And eventually things start falling apart in our own lives and then in our society as well. And then things get a little crazy, things fall apart, and then the cycle starts over again where we're like, oh my goodness, we need to put the pieces back together. What do we do? Well, we have to work together with people. We have to love our fellow men. We have to work with them. We have to build our society in a good way. And then we do that, and then everything's going good for a while, and then we forget what it was that caused us to build a good society, and everyone starts bickering with each other again and they go more inward and just care about their own things, and then the cycle continues. It's just a cycle that has continued time and time again throughout history. As you see, every major civilization has collapsed at some point, right? And one could argue that ours seems to be on the verge of that, in that cycle type of thing. So thanks for that, Belinda. Always gets me off on a rant whenever you share your thought of the day. So we're always on the same wavelength. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, Sherry. That's Denise giving a shout out for Sherry. And Brian, good morning, Sudbury Patriots. Canada flag emoji. Now that word, Brian, I'd just like you to know that in the audience, that word patriot, for some reason, is triggering to a certain demographic. And I've received different notes, and even in the chat here with different people, think that this is like, just because you say patriots or you say, free speech, or you say we really value freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of any kind, just freedom in general, that these are trigger words to a certain demographic nowadays for some reason. Just wanted to point that out, just because I know people have said derogatory things towards our audience, saying certain things because, we're on the radio, we're on live streaming on the internet, and, different people from different ideologies, different backgrounds, different worldviews are checking in. And there's trigger words for certain people, right? And that's a trigger word for some people, but you as a veteran, fighting for Canada for so many years, that word means something very sacred to you. And I would hope that it would mean the same for everyone, and that you wouldn't get caught up in, I guess it's just a form of propaganda or groupthink where people think if you say these words, you're a certain kind of person. I don't know how that's happened. It's happened through our media, but I can't see how people are still susceptible to things like that. But they are, and I'm not sure why. But we're all about understanding things for what they really are, not for what they're perceived to be, and try and peel back the layers of things. And everybody's human at the end of the day. Everybody is after the same things. Everybody wants happiness. Everyone wants safety. Everyone wants to be, we need to take care of the basics of life. We need a place to live. We need clothes. We need shelter. Food, the basics, water, and then we need friends and community, and we need purpose in life. We need a meaning, whatever that is. We're all in the same boat. But somehow, over the past few years, people have been kind of split up into different camps. And one camp thinks they're right over another, and one, they have moral authority over another, and it's just interesting. But at the end of the day, we're all the same. We're all human beings, all after the same things. And all that just because you said, "Good morning, Patriots." And I myself feel that being patriotic, what does that mean, right? My grandfathers both fought in World War II. They were fighting for something, even though they came back scarred for life, and it impacted their life, their livelihoods, all kinds of things. They did it for the reason of fighting for the lives that we can have, which involve the freedom to live our lives the way that we want. They fought for everyone's freedom, and this is just something that, the slogan, "Lest we forget," is just so important. It's exactly that. It's the cycle that through history mankind goes through, that they were really urging people to not get there again. Let's not get to this point again. Let's not forget. Right? And I think we're forgetting. I do believe we are forgetting. I think there's a lot of signs towards that. And we can see that in policies that are being made from our federal government over the last 10 years or so, that they're definitely forgetting. There's no doubt about that. And then they're encouraging their citizens to also, I feel, forget. And unless we remember and unless we take heed, we will repeat the not so nice things that history has shown us. And that's, I think, where we're at right now. Just a personal view, and that's why we're here. We're here to share our views on the news, and that's exactly where we're going to be heading really soon here into local headlines, as a few morning shout-outs to go, and then we'll be right into some of the news headlines. Pat, good morning, folks. Peace sign. Good morning, Pat. Thanks for being on. And Denise says, there's an Islamic takeover. Keep your eyes on Kuwait and Iran. They will soon be a global, that's that word again, caliphate, salafate. Why do you think they pushed all of these men into sovereign countries? And we know China hates Islam. It's going to be an interesting going to be interesting in coming years. So again, you're kind of saying some of the details of what I was saying generally, right? Of, if we don't kind of keep our guard up and whatever, things start creeping up in areas in the world, and someone just has to kind of light a match, and then everything is ready kind of to go and not go in not so good of a way. So the best place to start is working on ourselves. So you start working on yourself, you be the best person you possibly can be. Then there's your family and your close network to, influence, and then that spreads out to your neighborhood and your community, and it just spreads. So I think as people take ownership of their own things they can control in their own lives, that's the best place we can be to influence change in our world broadly, right? Is to start with ourselves. Denise, I love your show. Lots of good information. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Denise. Thank you for being on. And good morning, Valley East Industrial Park, from Valley East Industrial Park. Thanks, Jerome. You are definitely all over the place, and now you're in Valley East. You got the muscle emoji, the Canada flag emoji, much appreciated. And Vin, Carney's decision making is equivalent to making no decisions, ironically, equally as harmful to Canada. We'll get into some of those things in a moment. Carney advised Trudeau on implementing the Emergencies Act. Need I say more? That's true. That was kind of like just like carbon tax is his brainchild. Originally, everyone thinks he's just a promoter of carbon tax. No, the guy came up with it. He came up with it in the world, and he's trying to implement it in the world, and he's in world government, like as part of the unelected world government, right? The UN, no one's elected in there. The WEF, no one's elected. The World Health Organization, sure, they might elect themselves or whatever, but the citizens don't elect them. So we have like a global governance body of different bodies working together. And that's who Mark Carney is part of. Sure, he was born in Canada, but has no real affiliation or accountability to Canadians. His accountability is to globalists and to his asset management company. And when you mix the two together, there's conflicts of interest. But anyways, another comment on Mark Carney. So Marianne says, Mark Carney, the man who holds 3 passports and has no identity. The one thing we know that he does destruction on everything he works at, except those adventures that fills his pockets and it's done on the backs of hardworking people. And Vin says, I believe Biden had more to do with it. I believe Biden had more to do with it. He had just bragged of his phone call, then went against all Canadian police information. And that was the Emergencies Act in Canada, is what you were saying, that Biden kind of wanted to kibosh the movement in Canada that we were, showing our dislike of how strong the mandates were during the last 4 years, right? And they were freezing bank accounts. They were, stealing the truckers' gas. They were taking away licenses from truckers, all kinds of things they were doing during that. The Emergencies Act suspends all common law, regular law, and then goes into like a martial law type thing. And that's what they implemented. Hope we never get to that again. But Carney said he wants to invoke that same Emergencies Act or whatever to fight the financial crisis that we have right now. He said that in campaigning. And if you say he never said that, then you just Google it. Mark Carney says he wants to use all the powers of the government, including the Emergencies Act, to fight the financial crisis that we have. So he wants to invoke martial law to help the economy. I don't know how those two go hand in hand, but we'll have to see. Yes, for sure. So again, we're going to just dive right into some of our local stories here so we get a chance to get into some of the more national stories, including Mark Johnston. And so we have Brian Johnston here on. So good morning to you. Miles is on YouTube as well. Happy 80th anniversary to the liberation of Holland. My father was there and went back for the 50th anniversary. Ever interesting. Wow. Yes, we were very involved in the liberation of Holland for sure. I'm sure there's so many comments as we were talking about, wars and our freedoms that we appreciate, and maybe we're forgetting where they came from and how we got here and how hard things were before they got very easy. And then we started looking for problems, little problems, and we started getting off into these areas that may be less important to, the foundation of our society and true happiness, things like that. So thanks everyone for your comments. I'll continue to put them up on the screen as we head into a few headlines here coming from our news aggregator. This is Sudbury.news, which takes all the local news and puts it into one convenient web page for us. So, as we talked about on the last show, the BMI group wants to purchase the Espanola mill, the old Domtar mill here that was shut down over a year ago. BMI group wants to put the wood back to work with Espanola biohub mill concept. I was afraid they were just going to buy it for scrap metal. So this is good news compared to that. Brownfield redeveloper wants to finalize mill deal in May. Reach out to Northern Shore communities for support. So that's from Sudbury.com. So if you want to know more on that, and we'll be talking more on that as more news comes out. So many lives impacted, 450 odd jobs were lost when the mill closed a little over a year ago. It's going to be a year and a half now. Thankfully, there was a good amount of people found new jobs, but we're thankful that of that. And we're grateful that maybe this company will come in and start it up again in some form. And good morning to you, Liette. Friends from Collingwood. Got the clap sign emoji, the peace sign emoji, and Lucy's joining us. Good, happy face morning. Sheila's here from Quebec, I believe. Smiley emoji. So thanks for being with us, everyone. Let's see how many people we got on again. Yeah, we're getting to our usual amount of people on live. So let's dive into some more stories here from our news aggregator. From Sudbury.com, they have their stories to start your day. And please continue searching for a missing woman near Junction Creek. They've been looking for quite some time, so police are conducting a further ground search of the wooded area off Junction Creek between Kelly Lake and Martindale Road in search of Parisia, who was last seen on April 7th, and community members are asked to stay out of the area while officers are on scene. So unfortunately, I guess they're thinking that the worst has happened here in this case. They must have some information telling them, and unfortunately it doesn't look very good, but we'll keep our finger on the pulse of that story. April 12th marks the 4th anniversary of Laurentian's Black Monday mass layoffs. You'll all remember that. A group of former Laurentian faculty who were terminated by the university during its insolvency 4 years ago are marking the anniversary of what has been dubbed Black Monday. The community learned that Laurentian had cut 58 undergraduate and 11 graduate programs and 194 full-time positions, 116 full-time faculty, 41 unionized staff, and 37 non-unionized jobs on April 12th, 2021. They say with the anniversary comes calls from Laurentian University terminated faculty committee, which comprises former members of the university faculty who lost their positions at the school as a result of insolvency proceedings. So again, for more on that, you can read the full story at Sudbury.com. Now, the Sudbury 5, great news from them, coming from our Sudbury Star newsletter. They send out every morning at 3 a.m. Let's see here. So Sudbury Star, Sudbury 5 going to the finals. They're headed to the Basketball Super League finals following an unbelievable effort. So it came down to the wire, 1 point with 7 seconds left to clinch the game and go to the finals, the Sudbury 5. So it would be really interesting. We really do need a banner coming from the Sudbury Arena's rafters that says champions. It's been so long. Sudbury kind of needs that. So go Sudbury 5. They are now in the finals. And so that means you can get your tickets as soon as they come available by going to the5.ca and checking that out, or greatersudbury.ca/tickets. Now, Judy Strawn, as I can see, just emailed me. Probably wanted me to promote the Porchetta Bingo. Yes, that's what I thought. So what do you want to do on the long weekend? You have company and need a family-friendly activity with a definite Sudbury flavor. CKLU 96.7 Community Radio invites the entire family to join the team on Saturday, April 19th. That's this Saturday coming up. 2 o'clock for Porchetta Bingo at the Trevi Restaurant, 1837 LaSalle Boulevard, complete with mouth-watering prizes including delicious porchetta, crispy wings, or savory cheese curds. 2 to 4 p.m. at the Trevi. For the ultimate porchetta experience, for just $20, receive 3 strips, which can be swapped out between rounds to keep things fresh and exciting. CKLU Radio is operated entirely by Sudbury volunteers. Easter weekend fun solved. For tickets to support local community radio, email gm@cklu.ca. So GM is short for general manager, which goes to Rob. gm@cklu.ca. That's all you got to do. Remember, GM, 2 letters, at cklu.ca to get your tickets for this Porchetta Bingo this Saturday at 2 o'clock. $20. Am I reading it right? Sorry, $30. I don't have my glasses on today, and even if I did have my glasses, it wouldn't make much difference these days. So $30 gets you 3 strips. So it's like $10 a strip for Porchetta Bingo. And it raises money for a good cause here at CKLU. You can't get any better than that. Right? You got family over. You may be having your meal on the Friday or the Sunday, but they're in your house, and you're like, I need to get these guys out of my house and do something fun. And you can go raise money for a good cause, family friendly, like you say, and it should be a good time. And you're raising money for a good cause, which is CKLU. Now let's dive into some of the more national stories here that we wanted to get to, coming from Blender, which is our almost go-to news guys. They just power pack their news stories with all kinds of information, which we need to be aware of what's going on in our communities, right? So I thought I shared that, but I thought I shared that before this morning. That's interesting. So I would have. Oh yeah. So here you go. So we talk a lot about media. Media has a lot to do with elections, right? And certain governments want to do certain things with the media once they get elected. Now, a lot of people say the Conservatives have said they want to defund the CBC. Why do they want to defund the CBC? Because it seems really one-sided, and it is. It's ideologically one-sided. Case in point, if you were to honestly survey every person working for the CBC and ask them who they voted for in the last election, I would say it probably would be over 99.9% that would say they didn't vote for Conservatives, which means there's no Conservatives working in that organization, a news organization. If you have a news organization where there's heavily just one ideology working there, what ends up happening? You end up being in an echo chamber. You do end up being biased. Anyone, even on who's a liberal or NDP or anybody on that side of the fence, would say, well, of course that makes sense. And now you add on to it where the government is paying your salaries and paying your operations and totally giving you subsidies to the tune of billions of dollars. Like, why on earth would you have unbiased reporting? So this is the problem. You need unbiased reporting from our government-sanctioned news organization. And the government isn't just one-sided. Like, the government has more than one side. You have a lot of sides in Canada. And they're not all being represented. They're just being representative of one particular political point of view, because the people who work there are all of that political point of view. That is, I'd like anyone to challenge me on that one and prove that it's anything other than that. And so you can't really have unbiased reporting in that way, right? So you have conservatives saying, because of that, they'd like to defund it. And maybe something that takes its place is a more two-sided or all-sided, hopefully, news reporting where they have checks and balances in place that show to the people they're accountable to the people with their reporting. And so that there you have that. And then you have Mark Carney on the other side who's saying he's going to increase to the tune of, I think, $150 million more funding for the CBC. So there's two different sides of the coin. One, it's going to make them even larger and bigger and give them more money, and one that says they're going to cancel them. So when they're reporting on the election, how could they possibly report favorably to the side who's saying they're going to be, he wants to defund them? So this is what the media landscape is in our country. And but worse than that is the liberals say when they get in, if they get in, they're going to totally censor the media so that way any other voices other than the CBC will be squashed, and you might even go to jail for saying something different than the CBC is saying, the government funded or other government subsidized media, which CBC isn't the only one, right? So, okay, so here you go. So Blender News, they say it way better than I can and a lot more facts. So get ready to listen to a lot of facts coming your way. And if for some reason you may be speaking too fast or there's too much coming at you and you're like, he said a lot of things, well, you can find the show on demand right after we're live, and you can always go back and listen to this again. And every Canadian should be aware of what is going on. And this is our opportunity to help with that.
Mark Carney just pulled back the curtain on the Liberal plan to crush free speech. And here's why every Canadian should be absolutely alarmed. Do you remember Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, aka the Online Hate Speech Bill, aka the Free Speech Killer? Well, Mark Carney just made it crystal clear that his Liberal Party will be resurrecting this online censorship bill to tackle harms in the digital Wild West. So even though 85% of all mainstream media sources are subsidized by government funding, and 90% of all news consumed by Canadians comes from a subsidized source, Carney believes Canada needs more regulation to deal with what he considers disinformation and harmful content, because the Liberals also need to control what you can and can't say online. And if you step out of line, well, here's where things get a little crazy. Bill C-63 is disguised as a law to protect children. However, when you look under the hood, you will find that the Online Harms Act is the most dangerous piece of authoritarian legislation in modern Canadian history. Period. Under this bill, you can be fined up to $50,000 for hate speech by a Liberal-appointed tribunal at the Canadian Human Rights Commission. No jury, no appeal, just appointed political ideologues playing judge, jury, and executioner. They're also reviving Section 13 of the Canadian Human Rights Act, the same Orwellian provision that was scrapped in 2013 for being a censorship tool. It allowed the government to punish people not for what they did, but what they might say that could be considered likely to expose someone to hatred. Likely what you might say that could be offensive. Not proven, just maybe. And for this, you will be silenced proactively. The bill creates a Digital Safety Commission, which is a government body with the power to monitor your posts, control platforms, and demand takedowns at will. Think China's internet police, but here in Canada. A new criminal offense called offense motivated by hatred comes with a life sentence. Yes, life in prison for online speech that the government deems hateful. The bill also allows for retroactive indictments, so you better take down those old tweets or leave the country while you still can. And the best part is that they're going to crowdsource complaints. And if someone claims that your words harmed them, they could be awarded up to $25,000 for ratting you out. So now the most unhinged, perpetually offended woke activists can literally make a living off being triggered by your opinions, while you're bankrupted or jailed for sharing opposing views. If Bill C-63 gets revived by Mark Carney and passes through a Liberal government, this is what Canada will look like in the coming years.
But you've alleged to say, speak English? Or what's that effect? Speak clearly. Speak clearly.
No,
okay.
The gentleman's partially deaf.
Yeah, he can't speak clearly. Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Why am I in cuffs? Because there's something he shared, then I shared.
Because someone has been caused, obviously, anxiety based upon your social media page.
So I'm actually being arrested.
You're going to be arrested, okay?
Right.
So you got to the police station.
Right.
Okay, this is in relation to some comments that you've made on a Facebook page.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, consider that this censorship blueprint mirrors the UK's dystopian laws, where thousands are jailed for social media posts every year, others for protesting with signs that are deemed hateful, and even some for thought crimes. In 2023 alone, over 12,000 people were arrested for what they posted online. That's over 30 arrests per day for tweets, Facebook posts, and even private messages that someone, somewhere, found offensive. People have been fined, jailed, and fired for things as simple as jokes or political opinions. Others have had non-crime hate incidents added to their permanent records, even when their actions did not constitute a criminal offense, just because someone got offended. In fact, over 250,000 non-crime hate incidents have been recorded in the last 10 years, even against children as young as 9. Police departments now dedicate massive resources to social media patrols. It's estimated that over 60,000 police hours per year are used to monitor people's opinions instead of catching actual criminals. But this is what happens when you let the government decide what hate means. It creeps into religion, politics, comedy, debate, and eventually your DMs, your memes, and your conversations with friends. Nothing is off limits. Mark Carney's comments were a roadmap, a warning of what's to come if Canadians hand the keys back to the Liberals. This isn't just about protecting kids or fighting hate, it's about political control over online speech. It's about silencing opposition, shutting down dissent, and weaponizing the government against anyone who dares to challenge the state-approved narrative. But free speech isn't some abstract concept. It's the foundation of every other freedom we have. If we can't openly debate, question, or criticize the status quo, then how are we supposed to fix this country? Because we can't solve problems when we're not allowed to talk about them. And when a government starts dishing out $50,000 fines and life sentences for opinions it doesn't like, that's not democracy. That's authoritarian rule. Plain and simple. I will leave you with a quote from a Mongolian politician whose name I just cannot pronounce. Once people sense their own power, no authoritarian government can stand against the people who are determined to be free. So now is the time to be determined to be free.
The story of Christ doesn't really get going apart.
Mark Carney just pulled back the curtain on the Liberal plan to crush free speech.
So there you have it.
From some description of birth and youth, which we'll cover until the back.
Possibly can. Doesn't give me a chance to stop it. So there's a lot of people and a lot of Canadians that applaud this type of thing. They can't wait for police to show up at their neighbor's door when they didn't agree with something they said on Facebook. They're going to be the first to call the police and say, look what they said on Facebook. They need to be arrested because I don't agree with them. And I know the whole country and the groupthink that we got going on here. We all don't agree with that kind of thing, right? And we can kind of see, like I was talking about with the CBC, you know, if all the CBC have one political leaning and ideology, you just have to ask each and every one of them what they believe. And I guarantee you there's no conservatives in the CBC. They've been doing things over the years to get rid of them. Rex Murphy might be the last real conservative that had worked for the CBC. And yeah, I'll maybe get some facts to back that up, but that's a pretty strongly believe that that's the case, that it would be hard to find one conservative who works with the CBC in any capacity. And if they did, they'd be one of the quietest people just sitting in the lunchroom eating by themselves, not really saying anything to anybody, because if they said anything, they might get let go somehow. They'll find something that they did. Similar to what happened to the PPC candidate here in Sudbury, who basically just, Sudbury.com did a story on him and the fact that he was the candidate for the PPC party. And the next day he shows up for work and he's shown the door by the HR group, right? Best Tech here in town. And this guy was an engineering manager, supervisor of some kind. And we're hoping to have him on the show. I'm going to reach out to him today, and he's going to come on the show and interview him firsthand. So we'll do a firsthand interview, ask him what his experience has been, what his thoughts are, is why he felt he was fired. Was it any other reason than the fact that he was running for a particular political party? And is that right in Canada? Should we be able to be doing things like that? But more and more, we're doing that, and we're seeing signs that that's okay, and people are okay with it. And the only reason people are able to do this is because people allow it to happen, and they're okay with it. Way back in the day, I wasn't okay with the firing of Don Cherry, and I warned people when he was fired off the CBC for saying those people. That's why he was fired, meaning people who newly come to the country who are being asked to not forget why we got here, to kind of circle back to how we started the show, to not forget the freedom we enjoy, the reason why they come to this country. And it's so, envied by the world, the life that we have here, and why so many people want to come here. And we want people to come here, and we want people to experience it, but we want them to know why we are the way that we are. And that's what Don Cherry was trying to say in his maybe not so articulate way. And there was nothing wrong with the intent of his message, was to encourage people to continue to remember what makes Canada so great. What does make it? Like in this day and age of us elbows up, what does that even mean? It's a hockey reference, from people who've probably missed wide open nets for PR opportunities, who can't really play hockey themselves, but they're just using it as a tactic, right? So what has made Canada so great? Like, why are we so great? Like, we've heard why we're so bad from this government for so many years. Like, it's Canada's bad. It has to repent for all of our sins over the years of all the bad things we've done. But all of a sudden we're great again somehow. And Canada is wonderful. What makes us so wonderful, right? And we can't forget that. We can't forget the Christian Judeo values that have built this country, and that is a fact. That's what at the root and the base of Canada that's made us so great. It's been our values and our principles. And it's been the fact that we stood up for those values and the principles over the years. And as we stand up less, and as we allow people to do these things, they're just going to do it if you allow them. And we can't allow that. We can't allow people to be fired because of their political beliefs. Well, it's no different than China or Russia in that regard. And shame on the company that did that. And we're looking forward to having an interview with the candidate for the Sudbury People's Party of Canada candidate who was fired because he chose to run for that particular political party, which is terrible. It just goes to show, what we were just talking about here with the government's relentless focus on censoring. And now with their bill that they're passing, that Miles pointed out the other day, that they want to pass to take away the charitable status of religions. Like, they want to take what's behind all of this stuff? Like, who's behind these things? Why are they doing what they're doing? Like, this is incredible. What's religions? I mean, they do so much good for our country, historically have, and that's one of the reasons why the country's been so sought after for people to want to come here. And that's what built this great nation. And people have fought for it and given their blood and their lives for it. And we're losing that sense of reasoning and reason of why Canada was so great in the first place. You go around saying Canada's so great. Why? Because of what? Okay, tell us why we're so great again. What made us great? And I don't think you'll be able to answer that unless you come down to the very fundamental things we've been talking about on this show that has made us great in the first place. And we're losing that. We're saying it. We're beating these drums out there and sounding the alarm that we're so great and forgetting what made us great in the first place. Can't forget that. And I think that will help us to make good decisions in the future and avoid maybe repeating history. Thanks for listening today, everyone. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you. Thanks for being on as our community continues to grow. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. We'll be back same time, same place, on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. Have a wonderful Monday, everyone, a beginning to your work week. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Have a great Monday, everyone. Ciao for now. And see you tomorrow.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.